Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. Two more candidates for local posts are called out for misogynistic remarks made during their respective campaign sorties. The Comelec has since given the candidates show cause orders. But the question is, will anti-discrimination laws penalize such erring candidates?
The Department of Social Welfare and Development is ramping up anti-hunger efforts amid recent survey results showing an increase in hunger incidents among Filipino families. We'll be speaking with DSWD Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao on the department's Walang Gutom program and the Walang Gutom Kitchen, which are supposedly designed to address this problem.
And the Philippine and U.S. Air Force units kick off the Cope Thunder exercises in Clark, Pampanga. Participating U.S. Air Force planes include the F-16 fighter jet, which the Philippines is eyeing to purchase by next year.
Maaaring ito ay may paglabag sa ating pong anti-discrimination resolution. Tatandaan po natin, yung ating anti-discrimination resolution ay hindi lamang naman para sa kababaihan kundi sa relihiyon. At yan po ay covered po nung resolution na yan.
We begin tonight with hunger. A new survey shows that hunger among Filipino families has hit its highest level since the pandemic. The social weather stations found that 27.2%, or almost 3 out of 10 Filipinos, have experienced involuntary hunger in the last 3 months. This is a sharp rise from February's 21.2% and January's 15.9%. Of those affected, 0.21 or 21% rather, faced moderate hunger, while over 6% suffered from severe hunger. The survey also showed hunger rose across the country except in Metro Manila. Visayas recorded the highest rate at nearly 34%, followed by Metro Manila, Mindanao, and the rest of Luzon. In response, the Department of Social Welfare and Development is boosting its Walang Gutom program. The program currently helps 300,000 food-poor households with 3,000 pesos in monthly food credits. The DSWD plans to reach 750,000 families by 2027 with additional initiatives like Walang Gutom Kitchen and nutrition cook-off challenges to promote healthy meals. And to shed light on the causes of this surge and the government's response, we're joined by DSWD Assistant Secretary and Spokesperson Irene Dumlao. Good evening, Secretary. And first of all, your reaction, how did it get this severe?
Well, good evening, Ces, Xiao, and Pauline, and good evening to all your televiewers. On the part of the DSWD, we see that there are a lot of factors that may affect the increase in hunger incidents in our country. One of the reasons could be the protracted effect of the eruption of Mount Canlaon, particularly in the Visayas region. Other reasons could be the effect of inflation, and that is why the DSWD, together with other agencies of the government, are improving the implementation of the various anti-hunger programs of the government. That includes the Walang Gutom and the Walang Gutom Kitchen, among others.
Okay, I was wondering, Asek Dumlao, no, if the survey results kind of took you guys by surprise. Were you expecting 27.2? Do you guys have data also similar to that, and does it correspond?
Well, the DSWD is working with other government agencies, particularly with the Philippine Statistics Authority and the NEDA, for the statistics on hunger incidents. We use that as reference in improving and implementing our programs. Well, when we looked at the survey, we saw that in the National Capital Region, there was no significant increase. And we see that because of the programs that we are implementing, it has not resulted, or we see that the programs like Walang Gutom and the Walang Gutom Kitchen are on the right track. When we compare that to the hunger incidents in the Visayas, That's when we determine that, well, of course, there are several factors that may have affected it, such as what I've earlier mentioned, the protracted effect of the Mount Conlaon eruption and other factors, because, again, the problem on hunger is multi-dimensional. There are really a lot of factors that affect it.
So just to confirm, ASEC, do you mean to say that because in the Visayas, no, 34% yung number ng gutom, it pulled up the average percentage nationwide?
As I've said, there are a lot of factors that affect the incidence of hunger in various parts of our country. And we're just looking at the protracted effect of the disaster as one of the possible reasons. But nonetheless, we're looking at this as an opportunity to beef up our efforts on the implementation of, again, of our various programs, not only of our disaster response efforts, but also of other initiatives such as the food stamp program.
Well, as of right now, you have the DSWD serving 300,000 food-poor households. Tell us, ASEC, ano ba yung mga classifications kung paano ma-determine na ang isang pamilya ay food-poor? And are there any plans to also raise the amount of monthly food aid, which is right now at 3,000 pesos?
Yeah. On the Walang Gutom program, we have a targeting mechanism. Of course, first we make use of the DSWD listahanan in determining the 1 million poorest households who are qualified or are classified as food poor. And then we compare it to the Family and Income Expenditure Survey to determine also the areas where there is high incidence or prevalence of hunger. And that is our basis in identifying areas that will be prioritized for the implementation of the program. And then there's also a mechanism to determine who will be enrolled. Again, we did some validation of the food poor households, and that's how we enrolled them. Now, as you've mentioned, we are now serving around 300,000 households, and the target is to cover around 750 households. That is based on the Family Income and Expenditure survey, wherein initially we were able to determine around 1 million, but because of the updated statistics on the food poor, we have reduced it to 750,000. Yeah, we recalibrated our targets to 750 households to
How come po?
ensure that we have accurate and needs-based intervention that is actually aligned on the actual number of food insecure in our country.
You're saying from projected 1 million, you reduced to 750,000. How come po when their figures are rising, actually?
That is actually based on the preliminary results of the 2023 Family Income and Expenditure Survey, wherein approximately 742,000 Filipino families are classified as food poor. So in response to that updated data, the Walang Gutom National Program Management Office recalibrated its target coverage. But of course, this is in addition, this Walang Gutom program is of course in addition or supplements the other anti-hunger initiatives of the department, like the supplementary feeding program, wherein we provide hot meals to children enrolled in child development centers and supervised neighborhood plays. So each sector has a targeted intervention that contributes in addressing the incidence of hunger.
Could it be, sorry Pawi, I just have to follow this up. Could it be that the figures, the self-rated hunger survey is different from your government, the government statistics? Yeah, there might not be a mismatch, there might not be a match. And so therefore, the problem may be more severe than what you think it is. Is that a possibility?
Well, on that aspect, we'll have to defer to the Philippine Statistics Authority because, again, their information is the reference of the department in implementing our program. Now, I'd like to respond to the other question on the possible recalibration of the program, particularly on the amount that we are providing. We would just like to mention that our partners are actually making a study or has initiated initiated a study that actually tests varying voucher amounts. And our partners are also exploring the possibility of having more frequent redemptions beyond the typical 1 month limit. We're also looking at having an extended pilot study wherein we could determine if our beneficiaries should have higher amounts to receive to better address their consumption gaps. So we'll just have to wait for the result of this study to be issued, and whatever would be the outcome will again be the reference of the department in recalibrating, if necessary, program implementation.
And ASEC, still regarding the amount, yung 3,000 pesos nga po na monthly aid, ano, what's the feedback from the families? Enough daw po ba ang 3,000 a month? Because you have to account for inflation and the rising costs of food. Sapat nga po ba talaga ang 3,000 pesos sa isang
I'll also
buwan?
add na lang to, since Pawi asked na rin, I'm also wondering if may accountability check ba that yung 3,000 talaga napupunta sa pagkain?
Yes, actually, when we did the pilot implementation of the program, we really did a study on the sufficiency or adequacy of the 3,000 pesos monthly food credit. And based on the earlier results of those study, nakita naman po no, na sufficient. But then again, of course, sabi ko nga, there are current studies being done to determine if responsive yung amount na iyan. But we'd just like to mention that this program has a social and behavioral change component. Meron itong condition yung attendance to the nutrition education sessions, wherein our Walang Gutom program beneficiaries follow a structured and laddered approach to promote long-term changes in dietary habits. So we're teaching them to prepare mura, masustansya at masasarap na pagkain. And in addition to that, there's a food basket that we are using. Dito, they could only buy foods that are inside that food basket. There's actually a percentage for 50% goes to carbohydrates, 30% to protein, and 20% for dietary fiber. And they could not purchase other goods using their electronic benefit transfer card. So in that manner, we could determine and we could be assured that they are only purchasing foods that are really necessary for their health and nutrition.
Okay, ASEC, matanong ko na rin, no, nabanggit ninyo yung protracted eruption ng Mount Canlaon sa Visayas. It's still very active. In fact, we get updates from FIVOLCS every now and then. What is the short-term plan or medium-term plan for that, since we can't really predict what's going to happen? But for sure, since the activity is ongoing, have you guys put in interventions in place, at least in that vicinity?
Yes, the DSWD continues to provide family food packs to internally displaced persons, particularly those who are still residing inside evacuation centers. And at the same time, we're also providing other interventions such as setting up of community kitchens, because we recognize that the family food packs that we are providing may not be enough to provide for the nutritional requirements of the internally displaced persons. So we're bringing in community kitchens so that other nutritional foods or nutritious foods may be supplied or will be supplied to the disaster-affected families. At the same time, we're also working on the other interventions for the community in coordination, of course, with the local government units and other agencies of the government. Of course, looking at the long-term effect of all this assistance.
And in closing, ASEC, can you tell us when the study by the NSO will be happening? The release of the study.
Yes, we are expecting the result of the study to be issued within the first semester of 2025. Hopefully, we can have it by April or May. again, so that we could have a reference, because of course DSWD is always evidence-based in policy making and program implementation. So as we move forward and as we intensify our program implementation, we hope to have this study issued really very soon.
Yes, we do hope so. Thank you so much.
I guess one last question, yes, but this is on a different topic. Of course, this is going viral. It has something to do with the upcoming elections, the candidates. Secretary Gatchalian has been very, very upset na nagamit nga yung isang PWD in campaigns. You guys have an investigation. Can you tell us more about the parameters of that and what we expect to get out of that?
Well, yes, on the issue on the solo parent, of course, the secretary has already mentioned that we really have to protect and promote the rights of our solo parents, who are our modern day heroes, as they really work very hard to provide for the needs of their children. So we have to make sure that our discourses really ensure that the interest of this vulnerable sector will be upheld. Now, on the issue of the person with disability, again, the DSWD has sent out a team in Pasig to do a fact-finding investigation. And as the Secretary has mentioned, if there is a violation, particularly on the rights of the person with disability, we will be working with the local government unit to file the necessary charges. Again, we're doing this because as lead in social protection, we have to make sure that we work for the interests of the vulnerable sectors. We don't want that our vulnerable sectors are victimized twice and that their vulnerabilities are further exploited. So that's the effort now of the department, of course, to really ensure that their rights are promoted and protected.
Pero ASEC, just to clarify things, nakausap naman na po ang pamilya nitong PWD and they already decried that video. What else did they say, ASEC? I mean, because you have reports saying that this individual was forced nga po to badmouth Pasig Mayor Vico Soto.
Yes, of course, we've seen and read videos and posts on social media, but the DSWD would like to verify this information. That's the purpose why Secretary created a team to do a fact-finding investigation. And whatever the result of that would be reviewed, of course, by our Secretary, and it would be the basis of further actions.
Okay, so there's possible legal action if proven by investigation.
All right, we thank you for your time, DSWD Assistant Secretary and Spokesperson Irene Dumlao. We hope the good secretary will sit down with us in the big story at another time. Thank you.
For now, we pause for a quick break. But right after that, after barring cabinet secretaries from attending the Senate hearing on former President Duterte's arrest last week, the palace now says that they may go. The details next.
but many found were just not funny at all.
The Comelec has vowed to take swift action on bets making sexist and racial slurs on the campaign trail before the elections.
How soon will the Comelec decide on these so-called bastos complaints? We now speak to the poll body's chairman, Attorney George Garcia. Welcome to the big story. Chairman, well, we're happy that the Comelec this time is proactive because we've seen this in other campaigns before.
Yeah, good evening, Ma'am Cess, Ma'am Sean, and Ma'am Pauline. Good evening to all the televiewers. Yes, indeed, the Comelec decided that it should be proactive this time. If in the past the Comelec had been had been that proactive, we decided that it's high time that we should show our teeth, so to speak, to everyone. We should impose the law and implement the law as it is. And for the information of everyone, it's the first time that the Comelec for the 2025 election have enacted an anti-discrimination resolution. And this is because we would like to ensure that there is fairness in campaigning.
All right, but how long will the Comelec decide? What is the procedure here? So you have 3 or 4 cases, Chair?
Yes, there will be 5 cases already by tomorrow, but we commit that these cases will be decided prior to the conduct of the election. We do not want any uncertainty on the part of the voters, and definitely no uncertainties also on the part of the candidates themselves. The issuance of the so-called show cause order is but mere preliminary for purposes of ensuring due process is afforded to the accused or to the respondents in these cases. And still, it's up to the task force to determine whether indeed there is a reasonable ground to charge with an election offense or disqualification cases these respondents.
And Chairman, pwede po natin balikan what exactly are these 5 cases that the Comelec is investigating right now?
One is in Pasig, the other one is in Batangas, the other one is in Misamis, the other one is another in Pasig, and then the same person who is actually facing the same complaint, yung candidate for congressman in Pasig, will again be facing another complaint, this time because of his remarks directed against an assistant.
And Chairman, ito nga po nga si Attorney Ian Sia, no, yung nag-viral sa Pasig. I understand today po yung deadline niya sa pagsagot dun sa show cause order. Has he responded already?
As of kanina, mga 4 o'clock, wala pa, Ma'am Sean, Ma'am Pauline, Ma'am Cess, but hopefully baka kanina, baka bago mag 5 o'clock, nakapag-file na siya ng kanyang response dun sa ating show cause order. But nonetheless, whatever is the response, number 1, and number 2, whether or not he will be filing a reply to our show cause order, it's up to him, but we can declare him as having waived his right to do that. So yung pong pagpapa-require natin is just a mere requirement for purposes of us proceeding with the next step, and that is determining whether a case can be filed or not against him.
Right, and if we do file a case, ito nga yung itatanong ko, Chairman, no? If mag-file tayo ng kaso laban sa mga kandidatong ito, una, how long will the resolution take? Kasi malapit na yung eleksyon. At pwede ba to i-apply kahit na, let's say, after na nung halalan? Second, I guess, would be, itong new policy ninyo, binase ba ito sa certain laws? And does this policy of the Comelec actually have teeth, like you said?
I would like to answer the second question first.
Go ahead.
Well, pinagsama-sama natin ito ng mga laws, especially on anti-discrimination. No discrimination when it comes to the reason of gender. No discrimination because one is being alleged to have HIV, or no discrimination because of religion, because of his status as a PWD, or a situation or condition as a PWD, and no discrimination because of membership in an association or group that does not have the same principle as we have. And so you call that tagging. So pinagsama-sama po lahat ito ng mga laws. Tomorrow, I'm going to sponsor a resolution addressed to the Commission, this time to strengthen our anti-discrimination policy, that what we are going to do is the polling places, polling precincts, canvassing centers and social media platforms should be considered as safe spaces in order to ensure na walang mabastusan sa lahat ng mga venue na ito.
Curious lang ako, follow-up, no, Chairman. Napaikot ba sa lahat ng kandidato itong resolution ng Comelec about anti-discrimination? Or kusa na ba dapat nilang i-check sa website ng Comelec na may ganito palang mga resolution for this election?
We were able to pass this resolution 2 months before the actual conduct of the campaigning. And it was published in newspapers of general circulation. Alam naman po natin, mere publication is enough to notify everyone, and ignorance of the law excuses no one from compliance therewith, especially if the one that is supposed to comply are candidates themselves who must be knowledgeable of the guidelines and rules of the Commission.
Display civil behavior. Teka, Chairman, kasali ba yung sa Batangas na sinabing parang matanda na si Governor Vilma Santos? Is he also one of those facing a charge?
Yes, Ma'am Cess, we issued a show cause order also earlier this morning sa kanya for him to be able to explain his side. So, in fact, hindi lang yun yung utterance niya. I think 2 or 3 pa na utterances pertaining to the issue of directed against being a woman. And because elderly, sa ating palagay, that's discrimination, plain and simple.
Or ageism?
Ageism. Pero how does this equal the playing field, no? Kasi a lot of these candidates being called are men. Not naman saying that women are exempt from making similar comments, no? But is it really targeted towards men, or are there also like a female candidates that have uttered unpleasant things? Or is it a bashing thing?
Alam niyo po, kahit ng mga nakararaang eleksyon, mga previous election, ang babae, ang kababaihan na lagi ang patungkol, ang lagi na lang dinidiscriminate, ang laging basihan ng joke at ang laging basihan ng mga ganyang klase na pang-aalipusta o panghahama. So sa ating palagay, mukhang nagiging part ng nagiging part na ng kampanya yung ganyan, and this should be stopped. Hindi dapat na ganyan. So yung sa kababaihan naman, meron din tayong tinitingnan yung ginamit niya ng kanyang campaign jingle, sa ating palagay double meaning. And so asahan nyo rin po in the next few days, we're going to issue something against her so that she'll be able to explain yung mismong kanyang campaign jingle na yan.
And Chairman, balikan ko lang po yung incident ni Attorney Ian Sia. Aside from the possibility of filing a criminal case against him, kasama rin po ba sa pinag-aaralan ng Comelec ang proposal na ma-disbar siya? Because you have people also calling for his disbarment because of his conduct or wrong conduct as a lawyer.
Sa part po ng Commission on Elections, maaaring ibang grupo na po yun o ibang mga tao ang pwede mag-file ng complaint sa IDP o sa Supreme Court. Basta as far as the Comelec, he will have to just deal with a disqualification or an election offense as the case may be. Hanggang doon lang muna kami. Doon po sa ibang cases that can be or may be filed against him, it's the call of the other groups na po.
But this, if you decide before the elections with one way or another, the erring candidate can bring it up to the courts and delay the disqualification, if that is the decision that you will make.
In the case of a congressional candidate, if there is a disqualification case that is rendered or decided by the Commission before the election, then in that case, and it becomes final and executory, and there is no restraining order, then the second placer can be allowed to sit. However, in the case that the candidate facing a disqualification case is voted upon, proclaimed and has taken its oath, and at the same time assumed office by June 30, 1201, then the jurisdiction of the Comelec is lost, and the jurisdiction shall now belong to the House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal. That is not true when it comes to local candidates, because for local candidates, the rule on succession will be made applicable to them.
Okay. I'm curious also, Chairman, kung paano ito makaka-affect no, sa mga bashing. Kumbaga, bashing without misogynistic overtones. It might change the parameters of how, people bash, quote-unquote, each other. Because syempre, election to, may mga kalaban ka talaga. And hindi mo may iwasan na may masasabi ka. But what are the maximum parameters of bashing, kumbaga? Na hindi kayo masisita ng Comelec?
Ako, alam naman natin pag sinabing bastos Pag sinabing bastos yung sinabi. Negative campaigning is allowed under the Omnibus Election Code. Kung sabihin ba natin mali naman yung sinasabi niya o kaya naman siya mismo ay nagsisinungaling, hindi po yun pambabastos. So yun maybe as declaration of fact or statement of fact. Pero alam po natin kapag ka-discrimination at saka pambabastos Because kung sa'yo lang ang joke, directed sa sarili mo, okay lang. Gawin mo kung lahat anong gusto mong gawin sa joke na yan. Pero yung joke as against an individual, makakasakit sa individual, bakit kailangan ka mag-joke o mag-offend ng iba para makakuha lang ng boto? Hindi ko po makuha talaga yung bagay na gano'n. Why should you go to the extent of offending others just to be able to get votes? If you want, just offend yourself and nobody will complain perhaps.
Chairman, the matter of the PWD that was supposedly coerced to say bad things against Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto, has this also been brought to your attention? Has the case been filed?
Yes po, it was brought to our attention, but at least the DSWD already have taken steps. In our case, our task force is now studying our options as to whether this will qualify as part of the resolution of the Commission or any other resolution of the Commission for that matter.
And Chairman, just on a different topic, what's the latest on the transmission devices and solar panels that were found in a residential area po sa Davao?
Dapat po maintindihan ng lahat. Ito po ay tama po kayo. Mga solar panels po ito at mga Starlink. And base po sa kontrata natin do sa winning bidder, yung aming provider, basta mailagay po nila yan, maikabit sa lahat ng mga schools na wala pong signal, whether kahit anong klaseng telco, sa amin po that's enough because these are just transmission devices. Yeah, as of yesterday morning, lahat po yan were already distributed to all the provinces and cities na intended ito. Nagkataon lang talaga yung provider, mas maaga po kasi nilang na-deliver doon sa area at wala po kasi na warehouse ang gusto na pumayag na magkaroon ng kontrata in just a matter of days. Gusto nila months or year. And so napilitan po talaga sila na ilagay sa private property. But it is of no moment because everybody were informed of the safekeeping of these transmission devices. Again, these are mere transmission devices. These are not ballots. These are not even machines which were already distributed and already for installation by tomorrow until April 15.
Okay, and on peace and order naman, Chairman, we know you have declared one election hotspot. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not that updated. Pero have there been more areas or are there more areas that you are looking at that could eventually, heat up, the tensions heat up there?
Well, in the meantime, you're right. We declared only Dato Uding Siswat as under Comelec control. We were studying before other areas to be declared under Comelec control. Pero nung sinabi na po natin, like for example, the province of Abra and the entire province of Maguindanao Norte, biglang nawala po yung violence, biglang tumahimik yung lugar. Siguro nga, mas maganda talaga, lagi kami nagde-declare na pwedeng malagay under Comelec control para magiging tahimik. Now, yung Dato Uding Siswat, after the declaration, wala po siya kahit anong kaguluhan na na-report sa atin. So, again, we declared merely the municipality under Comelec control, but we have not done anything in order to disturb the peace or in order to disturb the status quo in the area.
Oh, we do hope that situation will hold and only one area will remain hanggang election. Ilang araw na lang? How many days? I'm sure you're counting the days and hours.
34 days to go na lang po tayo.
Oh, wow. Time really flies. Thank you so much for your time, Comelec Chairman George Garcia.
All right, more big stories to come in just a little bit. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on The Big Story. The Philippines and the United States have officially launched this year's Cope Thunder military exercise with the grounded FA-50s of the Air Force flying again, together with U.S. F-16 fighter jets, which the Philippine Air Force is set to add to its inventory. Here's Brian Castillo with the story.
Several FA-50 fighter jets from the Philippine Air Force and F-16 fighter jets from the United States Pacific Air Force flew together during a flyby at Clark Air Base in Pampanga. The F-16s are in the country for Cope Thunder, which is the bilateral military exercise between the Philippines and the U.S. that aims to strengthen cooperation and to enhance air defense capabilities and combat readiness.
Security is not the concern of one, but the responsibility of many. This year's exercise focusing on enhancing combat readiness and elevating joint mission effectiveness with clear objectives. And that is to train hard, think forward, and operate as one.
We live in a time of great consequence. And as you generate air power and hone and refine your tactics, techniques, and procedures, the world is closely watching. It demonstrates our shared commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific where all nations can prosper, thrive, and be free from coercion.
This also marks the first time the Philippine FA-50s will return to the air after being grounded for nearly 3 weeks, following the crash of one aircraft in Bukidnon last March that claimed the life of 2 pilots.
We have lifted the grounding of our aircraft. Yes, our FA-50 fleets have been inspected very well. It went through a very thorough inspection, and we have proven them airworthy.
The training will focus on air combat and various joint air scenarios.
We're going to be integrating with the FA-50s here, doing a variety of mission sets, mostly focused on air-to-air basic training, including dogfighting as well as tactical intercept, making sure that we are both familiar with how each other operates.
The FA-50s will train alongside US F-16s, which recently made headlines after the US approved their sale to the Philippines. Compared to the FA-50s, the F-16s are larger, faster, and equipped to carry more weapons. The Philippine Air Force has been pushing for the acquisition of modern multi-role fighter jets, with F-16 being among the options. According to Filipino pilots, the Cope Thunder is a good opportunity to familiarize themselves with the aircraft.
We are not comparing aircraft versus aircraft here. So we will validate our tactics, again, our tactics, techniques, and procedures on how we operate. This is in preparation for us in the future in acquiring multi-role fighter aircraft, much capable multi-role fighter.
For Filipino-American fighter pilots of the U.S. Air Force, this joint exercise serves as a homecoming.
Napakasarap ng pakiramdam na maisuot ang uniform namin dito sa bansang kinalakihan namin. Malaking tulong yung nakakapagsalita kami ng Tagalog dahil mas komportableng kausap ng mga Pilipino yung mga tao na galing din dito sa bansa natin.
This year's Cope Thunder welcomes international observers for the first time, with representatives from the air forces of Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, and Australia. The first phase of Cope Thunder will run until April 18 and will be conducted across various air bases in Luzon. For News 5, Brian Castillo. We are One News.
All right, so this piece of news grabbed the headlines. We're so focused on the F-16 fighter jets from the United States. They said it's possible for us to buy now. There is a package.
But what a big hole in the pocket.
Oh my gosh, $5.58 billion.
Kaya ba natin yun?
318 billion pesos. I was asking our defense editor, Manny Mogato, earlier. Sabi niya, yun na yung buong defense budget natin. So, how can we afford it? It's a good question to ask.
Midterms. Patak-patak.
Hulugan.
Hulugan. Hindi naman
Layaway, no? Kung mahilig sa online shopping.
All right, well, in other news, Vice President Sara Duterte just returned from The Hague, but the investigation on the alleged misuse of her office's confidential funds continues. The House of Representatives is verifying if the names from the list of the OVP and DepEd actually received public money. According to House Deputy Majority Leader Paulo Ortega, only 607 out of 1,992 supposed recipients from the OVP most likely matched records from the Philippine Statistics Authority, while over 1,300 did not. Meanwhile, 405 out of 677 names from DepEd also had no records. The controversy intensified after dubious names such as Mary Grace Piatos, Beverly Claire Pampano, and more recently, Fiona Biong and Ellen Magellan appeared in the lists. Lawmakers are now reviewing over 4,000 acknowledgement receipts amid questions on the legitimacy of the disbursements. Ortega says the issue may only be resolved through impeachment after the VP has failed to give clear answers in previous hearings.
Speaking of hearings, several cabinet officials will be attending the Senate hearing on the arrest of former President Duterte this coming Thursday. According to Palace Press Officer Claire Castro, Malacanang granted the request of Senate President Cheese Escudero. The Office of the Executive Secretary gave a list of 11 officials that will be present in that Senate hearing. The list includes Justice Secretary Boying Rebulla, PNP CIDG Chief Major General Nicolas Torre III, PNP Chief General Romel Marbel, and a couple more. Recall that Cabinet Secretaries skipped the hearing last week after the palace barred them from attending, invoking executive privilege. Meantime, VP Sara Duterte said she is willing to attend future hearings as she was invited by Senator Amy Marcos.
Kung nagkausap man po sila ni Senate President Cheese Escudero, binigyan din po natin ng pagrespeto ang kanyang hiling. Kaya provided of course, ito hindi naman din tatalakay sa executive privilege na mga issues.
I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah, what caused the change of heart? They seemed very adamant.
In the second hearing, they said they wouldn't attend, but
Yeah.
now if you have Palace spokes Claire Castro saying they will be attending today.
Because they granted the request of Senate President Cheese Escudero. So I guess there was some trading that happened behind
I
the
was
scenes.
thinking of that.
Horse trading.
What could Senate President Escudero have asked
Right? Or
the palace?
for them to offer up 11.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
That's almost complete attendance from the first hearing.
That's right. And we're going to see also Vice President Sara Duterte will be attending. Apparently, she already came home last night from the Netherlands around 10 p.m. So we'll see. But you do have Senator Amy Marcos saying, right, the whole point of the hearings is because she believes it wasn't, the arrest proceedings wasn't legal, and she's likening it even to her father, of course, former President Marcos Sr. She says she hopes na mapauwi si former President Duterte because she likened it to her father being in Hawaii.
That's right. Well, actually, VP Sara did attend via Zoom
Yes,
on the
she
first
did.
hearing,
She did.
right? But she just gave a privileged speech.
So now, no more empty chairs.
Yes. Last week was kind of parang
Yes.
anticlimactic,
Oo
no?
nga.
Ano ba nangyari? And
I
they adjourned so
wonder.
early.
Kasi if you're not able to defend your position, then there's a vacuum. You're giving all the sound bites to Amy.
Yes.
To Deadma is divine. Ano?
Yeah. To,
Ano ba yun?
to Patol is human, but to Dedma is divine. According to former First Lady Imelda Marcos daw.
So hindi na sila ngayon Deadma.
So we'll see what goes on. Ilang tulog na lang, pero meron pa tayo, no? Our big picture for tonight. We haven't forgotten Filipino tennis sensation Alex Ayala has actually climbed 2 more spots in the latest Women's Tennis Association or WTA rankings. Alex is now world number 73. Ayala's rise comes despite being off the court since the Miami Open, with player movements ahead pushing her up. Her semifinal finish in Miami pushed her into the top 75. Now, the 19-year-old holds a career-high ranking. Ayala's rapid climb from world number 140 to 73 definitely boosts her chances for a Grand Slam debut at the French Open. Ayala will be competing in the Oeiras Ladies Open in Portugal and the Madrid Open, as well as other tournaments leading up to the French Open.
You know what I love about Alex is after her Miami Open run, a lot of people started getting into tennis. You see people posting on social media and trying out tennis already. So.
Actually, it's one sport where we can do well. Parang na-start yung craze nung a little bit with golf and tennis during the pandemic because they were outdoor sports. And then I think this win of Alex will just really push the young tennis.
I hope more underprivileged, kids can join, can do the sport.
Yeah, I
can
think it's
enjoy
something
the
that they
sport.
can do. Everyone can do, right?
Yeah.
You just need a
Hindi
racket.
naman mahal, no? Medyo.
I mean, tennis is an expensive sport,
Yeah.
right? I think they acknowledge that. But there are so many ways to you're right, reach areas that are far-flung and to, just teach them basics, di ba?
Yeah. Tsaka hindi siya ganun, I think it's expensive, pero hindi siya kasing mahal ng, let's say, iba pang sports na mas maraming gear and kailangan mo ng membership para makapaglaro,
Yeah,
di ba?
public courts, di ba?
We need public courts.
And
I
we
think we
start
can
them young para wag na sila mag TikTok, Facebook,
balik tayo sa
social media.
grassroots.
Correct, di ba?
Okay. Less and screen time, always good advice. But that's it for the show on this Monday night.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching. Good night.